Just to quickly introduce myself, everyone, my name is Dave. I'm a game designer from Las Vegas, recently moved to Morgantown. And thanks for coming, I appreciate you guys. And today I want to talk about, first of all, we're going to talk about games because I love games, I'm obsessed with games. But mostly I want to talk about my experiences as a new entrepreneur. Because just like you guys, I'm sure in the business school you have ideas for companies and businesses, and I was working out in Vegas as a dealer for 15 years, dealing cards, and I've seen some stuff. I've had beer bottles thrown at me, I've been mooned, peed on, like all kinds of stuff, right? So I did the corporate thing, okay? And now, as of a few years ago, really COVID was the kind of the kick in the ass that I needed to launch my own business. What I want to talk to you guys about in the context of games, because I love games, but it's really innovation and motivation. These are the two questions that I always get asked, when both by investors and by fellow entrepreneurs. They say, how are you different and why are you doing what you're doing, right? So I've got my company, okay, it's called Changing Vegas. Changing Vegas is innovating table games, okay? We talk about innovating because out in Vegas, what do people associate table games with? Gambling, right? It's all gambling, okay? Gambling, it's a win-lose business model. You sit down, you have to lose money for them to make money, okay? That's what I didn't like about it. So Changing Vegas is all about reclaiming table games. Okay, so we go from win-lose into a win-win. And I'll kind of get through what that looks like later. But the innovation is how we take these three pillars of game design, okay? Because I was designing all of these new games for these casinos, and they just don't want to change, okay? They're in the Warren Buffett approach. They've been using the same method for 50, 60 years, and it's all about, big surprise, the money, right? They don't want anything interfering with what they got. So where the innovation comes in are through these three pillars of game design that I want to get into, okay? Now, the motivation for why I'm doing this is because, I love games. I don't know about you guys, but I just can't get enough. Video games, sports, board games, anything. What's your favorite game?
For like sports?
Anything.
I mean, for sports, I would probably go lacrosse.
Lacrosse? That's a game, man.
Yeah.
That's cool, lacrosse. That's a good one. Anybody else? Yeah. Football, okay? Lacrosse, football, that's two sports ones. It wouldn't necessarily have to be sports, right? The games, my two all-time games are Pokemon. I love Pokemon. And I love World of Warcraft.
I like chess.
Chess is a good one. Okay. All right. So these are all physical games. You got video games, you've got sports, you've got board games. Okay. Then there's other kinds of games. There's the social games, right? Okay. So you got social games like Among Us. I knew there was a game there. I knew you were Among Us, okay. But you get bigger because games are more than just an escape. Games can shape our culture. They're just like movies, Like a lot of people put like Pokemon, wow, like raised me. Okay, social games. If you wanted to get meta about it, politics. Okay, you think they're not playing games? They're playing games. They're playing games with people's lives, dude. It doesn't get more intense than that. Okay, so these are all these games, and to me, this is my motivation. Okay, so the innovation comes in. I want to prove that I can do this different business model, and the motivation is games. going a little more about this politics. Games are becoming more and more mainstream, especially since the shutdown. You'll notice a lot of big corporations like EA and Microsoft are really ramping it up. When everyone was stuck inside, they realized they could still make money doing video games, right? Before then, it was still kind of a underground thing-ish, like with Halo and the sports games, it was kind of mainstream, but a lot of it was underground. But now, you've got all these big corporations that are in the gaming business. They realize there's money in the gaming business. So, I don't know if you guys pay attention to gaming news, but there's been several lawsuits around games that are really affecting kind of creators and startups and entrepreneurs. Like, who's heard about the Nintendo versus the Power World? So Nintendo is the maker of Pokemon, one of my favorite games of all time, okay? Now, me and Kelsey just went to this AI conference, okay? And they're talking about like the ethics of AI and using AI in business. So what happened is that Nintendo has been pushing out Pokemon games for the last few years that the fans are not happy with. Okay, there's a lot of the same stuff. The graphics aren't good. Gamers always find reasons to complain, right? The games could always be better. But so what Power World did is Power World used an AI program and went in and cloned all of the digital assets of the newest Pokemon game that they came out with, okay? So all the graphics are the same. It's all the same characters. They just like tweak them just a little bit, right? But it's pretty much the same game, okay? But what Power World does is that they use AI and they clone the graphics, which is technically it's Nintendo's intellectual property, right? But what Power World does, Power World is listening to the players, and they took a clone of Nintendo's art, okay? And they made an original game. Power World ended up winning the lawsuit, okay? So then Nintendo got really petty. They tried to countersue. They said, okay, well, in Power World, you throw the ball and you catch the monster. That's our thing, okay? So now they want to patent the monster catching, okay? So now they're trying to patent gameplay mechanics, okay? They got Power World in trouble because you ride around on your monsters in the world, okay? So now, if they win, that means any game can't have monsters that you collect and ride around the world. Okay, they're saying that's Pokemon's thing. Even though people have been riding horses since like, what, the Roman times? It's like you're gonna patent riding on animals, So these are the kind of things that gaming is about. It's like, at what point do you protect your intellectual property? There's another lawsuit that's going on. It's between World of Warcraft and this one called Turtle Wow. In the last one, the indie company won. And this one, Blizzard Entertainment ended up winning. They are in a similar situation that Pokemon was, where they have their IP and the players aren't happy, okay? They're just putting politics into the games and alienating the original player base. So the players aren't happy. They say, do this, do this. So what Turtle Wow did is they went in and they found game files from the original game, the original World of Warcraft. So they took WoW's original code and they cloned a completely new version of the original game and added in all the stuff that players wanted, okay? So you've got this modern IP, and then you've got the indie company that uses the old framework, okay? But it's the same characters, right? It's not like the first example where they go in and they change it just enough. They literally are using their IP, just in a different way, in the way the players want. But it's the same kind of thing. It's like, at what point does it become an issue like, if someone holds an IP and they aren't giving players what they want, and they continue gatekeeping their content, like how far do you pursue this, right? How far do you go to defend your IP, okay? So these are just things to think about, because games are good, but they also can affect, they affect me greatly, because like, let's say the last one, the Power World one, you're gonna trademark monster catching games. It's like, well, I got an idea for like a Pokemon type game, but now, like, even though they lost the lawsuit, any new up-and-comer that has the idea for that kind of game is just like, oh crap, I can't do it, or Nintendo's gonna sue me, right? So even though they lost, it does have a residual effect on the industry, because new people entering are gonna think twice before they even step on Nintendo's toes, right? So games, to me, aren't just escaping. It's that there are there's a larger narrative here. I know a lot of you guys are entrepreneur minors and majors, so let's talk about how to design games, okay? And we're going to take a look at these 3 pillars. I call these my 3 pillars of game design, and you got to follow these if you want to make a badass game, okay? But when I'm going through these can apply to areas not just in games. So as we go through these, think about your idea for the business that you have, and in the context of innovation and motivation. The 3 pillars, they basically boil down to, okay, gameplay. Like, is it fun? Okay? In the context of wider things, it's what does the player get out of it? What does the customer get out of it? So what's in it for me, right? A lot of this has to do with engaging with your player base, respecting your players. Usually there's a give and take between customer satisfaction and how much money your company makes, right? Flavor. Flavor is the emotional argument. Why do I care about this, okay? So the flavor in terms of games is the art, okay? World building, like your IP, okay? Your style. Flavor is super important. And then last is the monetization. This is the heart of not only the game, but the business, okay? There's a lot of companies nowadays where it seems like they're just kind of squeezing their players. They're just squeezing them with microtransactions, all kinds of stuff, okay? So how you monetize the game is the heart, not only because you're an entrepreneur and your company has to make money if you want to stay in business, right? That's part of it. But the other part is how you monetize. That's really important, because it's going to say what kind of company you have and what kind of person you are as the leader of that company, okay? So in monetization, even though it's like the boring one out of the 3, I guess, it's what investors are going to ask you for, and it's the heart of the business. All right, so now let's walk through the pillars, and let's use my game that I'm coming out with, medieval poker. Let's use this as a case study. Okay, so gameplay basically is your game fun. Okay, casino games in Las Vegas. When I think of fun games, I think of like League of Legends, Call of Duty, you know, lots of graphics and explosions and exciting gameplay moments here, right? Like esports, you know, people actually, it's an industry of people watching video games. That's how exciting the gameplay is for some. It can be skill-based, okay? When's the last time you watched a blackjack streamer? Simple game, right? 2 cards, not much going on there. After a hand or 2, you can pick it out, okay? You can't build an industry around blackjack, right? The reason why blackjack is fun is because why? You're playing for money, exactly. So it's fun because it's gambling. There are successful games where the gameplay isn't the forefront, right? I mean, the first thing that I think about when it comes to Vegas is the slots. Okay? The slots are the most profitable game in the whole casino, okay? The table games are more of like a novelty, I'd say. If they could fire all the dealers and replace with a bunch of slot machines, they would do it. Okay? The people, they love slot players, okay? What's the gameplay with slots? Yep, you got it. Push the button, see if you win, right? Okay? Loot boxes. It's a loot box, okay? A modern example, mobile games, okay? And a lot of these mobile games are just clones of each other, okay? It's the same gameplay, but they use a different flavor window dressing to attract, okay? The slots, it's all the same. It's all pull the button and see if the reels pop up, right? But you got Buffalo, you got Goldfish, you got Mega Bucks. There's all these different slot machines, okay? And every gambler has their favorite slot machine that they have to gamble at, but it's all the same stuff, right? Gameplay, okay? The thing is, that's where medieval poker comes in, okay? Because a little game design trick, if you're new, so you take an existing game and you improve it. So with medieval poker, what you do is that you take an existing game, in this case Hold'em, Texas Hold'em, poker, okay? And then you add and improve it. How do you improve the gameplay? Well, I combined it with the strategy card games. If anyone's played or heard about Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon trading cards, I know the scalpers are getting a lot of attention right now. Okay, so for this, you take two proven concepts and you improve on it, okay? So Hold'em, I wanted to improve the gameplay because poker, you're just sitting around waiting for cards. You know, I don't know if you've ever watched ESPN, World Series ESPN, but they literally, all the players just sit around and flick their chips. It sounds like, they just sit there flicking their chips, flicking their cards, and they just fold and wait for good cards, okay? That's boring. I like to play, right? So you add the strategy cards to make the game more interactive, so there's always something to do. How it improves on strategy card games is that you're on a table with a whole bunch of people, with a dealer, okay? So there's the social element where you're interacting with people, okay? So you take an existing concept and you improve on both, okay? If your gameplay is not strong, that's where they tend to use other things to get people to play, okay? Because if they're not having fun, then they have to be getting something else out of it, right? That, like, what's in it for them, okay? That's what the gameplay is. Now, with the Vegas, okay, they rely on predatory tactics that traffic in addiction, okay? That play on people's psychology to get them to want to play. They're not having fun, but they want to play. They got to get their fix, okay? So some of these things. Who knows what FOMO is?
Fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out, okay? That's a big one. Oh, if I don't play this, I'm going to miss out on the next big old awesome thing. If I don't, I'm going to miss out, okay? FOMO, all right? Another one is the gambling element, okay? This got a lot of attention the last few years. Loot boxes, okay? Like PUBG, you guys heard about that stuff? Loot boxes are essentially slots, okay? It's a loot box game. Pull it, see if you win, right? Okay? Let's see, another one is, who's heard of sunk cost fallacy? Is it, yeah?
Yeah, like if you've already spent this much money, might as well just keep going.
Exactly. It's like, well, I'm in so deep, I might as well keep going, okay? And in Vegas, we call it chasing, right? When you're down, you're down $400, you're down to your last 100, it's like, well, I might as well put in the last 100, see if I can win my money back, right? Sunk cost fallacy. There's two types of currencies, right? Time and money, Okay, so this preys on, you feel like, even if you're not having fun, all of the time and effort you put into building up your account and collecting all your shiny little characters, right? All that would have been for nothing if you stopped playing the game, okay? So sunk cost fallacy, they get you really good with that in the mobile games, okay? So all of these prey on other things, and a big one for Vegas is the gambling addiction, okay? So I don't know if you guys are familiar with how this works, but with the gambling addiction, it's really kind of twisted. One of my pit bosses explained this to me one time, okay? Because people are just like, people always say, gambling addicts, they go, well, just stop. Like you're up, you're winning. Like you're up $500, just cash out. Like what's the problem, okay? But the thing is that they're not addicted to winning the money. They're addicted to the crash, okay? Because grief also causes endorphins. Pleasure does, but grief does too. And so what happens is that gambling addicts, they get addicted to the crash of losing everything in front of them, okay? So that's why a gambling addict, even if they're up, they're not gonna stop playing until they've lost everything in front of them. Because that's what they're looking for. That's what's replacing the gameplay, okay? But the thing about gameplay is that if your gameplay is good, if you got a reason, if they're having fun, then you don't need any of this, okay? People will play your game because they enjoy it, not because you're like tricking them. For the gameplay, this is why gameplay is so important, because you give people a reason. Without relying on these kind of shady tactics, okay? Vegas is built almost entirely on these things. It's part of the reason why I'm changing Vegas, right? The next one is probably my favorite. Okay, flavor. This is the fun stuff. An example of flavor in Las Vegas. The Bellagio, right? One of the nicest, ritziest casinos on the Strip. Okay. When I say the word Bellagio, what do you think of?
Luxury.
Luxury. That's a good one. Okay.
The fountains.
Fountains. That's good. Okay. What do you think the Bellagio smells like?
Okay.
Cologne. Okay. A little floral. So that's Bellagio, okay? Now we have another casino. I wonder if you guys have even heard of it. It's called the El Cortez. Anyone heard about the El Cortez? I'm not surprised, right? The El Cortez is the quintessential like dump casino downtown. It's not on the Strip, it's downtown, okay? Since you guys are unfamiliar with it, I'll take over from here. Okay, Bellagio, luxury. El Cortez, I'd say garbage dump. Okay, that's what I think of. Fountains. Let's see. What's the signature of El Cortez? It's like oxygen tanks. There's oxygen tanks everywhere. They tend to cater to an older crowd, okay? Then thinking, okay, what does it smell like? What does El Cortez smell like? El Cortez, mothballs. So, this is the flavor, okay? Bellagio, luxury. El Cortez, a different kind of flavor, right? But the thing is, once you get inside, they all have the same games, right? It's not like Bellagio has different games than El Cortez. They both offer blackjack, roulette, you know? All the same stuff, okay? So it's all window dressing, right? That's what flavor is, okay? Now, flavor, that being said, flavor is really important. They have this saying game development that the best games don't make the most money, the best marketed games make the most money, right? And that's all about the flavor. It's your company image, okay? So when there's two companies that are doing the same thing, they're selling the same service, then flavor is what's gonna set you apart, all right? So let's use medieval poker as an example again. So Vegas has the flavor, but it's mostly with the window dressing. In terms of the games themselves, they're lacking any flavor. You know, there's no characters in blackjack. There's no storyline, right? Whereas with a game like medieval poker, you've got all of these things that you can build on. You've got world building, okay? The storyline, the characters, right? You've got the art. This is a big one. Your theme, right? Your style, okay? Your logo, that all matters. Your identity. Remember, this is the emotional. Why should I care? Right? Why should I play this game instead of a different game? Okay? So, medieval poker, what I did is I tied the gameplay and the flavor together. In medieval poker, you've got the four characters, the characters in the poker deck: King, Queen, Jack, Joker. And depending on which cards you play with, you're actually engaging with the characters. Okay? You have an emotional connection with the characters. Okay? And all of this, even though I'm not using those predatory tactics, right? I'm kind of jumping ahead to monetization here, but even though I'm not using the predatory tactics, okay, the gameplay and the flavor, that's the reason why people are going to sit down and play, okay? Because they see this game, oh, that looks interesting, you know, that's different, okay? They actually have an emotional reaction to it, okay? So flavor, super important. And what my idea for flavor, and I had this idea right before I moved from Las Vegas, okay? So it was this company I started because how things work in Vegas is that it used to be pretty independent. Like they always say that I got there too late. Like the mob days were the golden age of Vegas, and those were like the good old days, okay? And from a certain point, I can see what they're saying, but the mob was also like killing people and burying them in the desert, right? So it wasn't all great. Okay? There's a trade-off. But what their point was that like now instead of independence, you've got two major companies. You've got MGM and you've got Caesars. Okay? And as far as the strip goes, they own like 90% of the strip. Okay? Use MGM as an example. They got Luxor, okay? They got Bellagio, MGM Grand, okay? You've got Excalibur, okay? So the list goes on. They own like 15 casinos, right? So my idea was, okay, so you have no flavor, you got the same games in every single place. So what if a guy like me, a game designer, went in and designed an original game for each property, okay? Because then that would give people a reason to go to the Luxor. It would give people a reason to go to Excalibur. Like medieval poker, you could have medieval poker as Excalibur, it's medieval thing, okay? Well, we create a new game, Luxor, Isis dice, you know, something Egyptian themed, right? Now imagine if that was the only place in the world where you could play that table game, okay? That's flavor. That gives people an emotional connection to the property, because if their favorite game is only at Excalibur, guess what? Excalibur customer for life, right? Okay? So after the casinos wouldn't really go for that, that's where I took my house game concept, and that essentially became our company. We do the original games, right? And so the idea, the flavor, the big draw behind our business is that we want to have a video game version of our games that people can download and play. But if you want to play Vegas style with the dealers live, The only place you can play is in Morgantown. Okay? Same idea, just instead of in the casinos, we start our own thing. Okay? This is important to us because we're a community-based business, and the whole idea is to draw people, right? That's how you make a community, is you create a product, okay? It's supply and demand, right? If you reduce supply, the demand goes up. And the right kind of people are going to be flocking to your destination, okay? So that's the idea. The last one, and this is where I really want you guys to take a look at the innovation motivation, okay? Because up until this point, I've mostly been talking about the innovation, okay? I've been talking about medieval poker and how we're changing our games to differ it from what Vegas is doing, right? Okay? But what unlocked it for me was the monetization. An aha moment, okay? Everyone knows, you just have an idea, you're like, damn, that's a really good idea, okay? The aha moment for me and my company was, okay, so you take the table games, I kept trying to make it work. Then with the monetization, you realized, okay, the gambling, you could make table games with a dealer, okay, and not have it be about gambling. Right? Because their games, my games, I have the gameplay and the flavor to draw me in, so I don't need the gambling for people to do that. And what did that do? Well, it opened up just options, okay? Because now I didn't have to worry about gaming commission, the gambling laws. I didn't have to worry about, my dealers could dress up in costumes, my dealers could do anything. I can exchange money, all kinds of crazy stuff, right? That the gambling commission, like if it was a gambling game, none of that would fly. But they all thought I was crazy because they're just like, well, you can't cut gambling out of table games. It's like, well, think about Dungeons and Dragons. Who's familiar with Dungeons and Dragons? Has anyone played D&D? So with D&D, it's all in your mind. You create your character, and then you have a dungeon master who's like the storyteller. Okay, so the dungeon master makes the campaign, and then all the players show up, and it's a role-playing game. Okay, the dungeon master is essentially the dealer. Okay, it's a game attendant. It's basically what it is. Okay, so Vegas has done a really good job with their PR, thinking if you have a table game with a dealer, it's got to be gambling, right? Because they're not focused on gameplay or flavor. They're just concerned with monetization, okay? So monetization is driving their whole business. It's the gambling element, all right? But a dungeon master in D&D is literally the same thing as a dealer on a blackjack table. Same thing, okay? So once you realize that, you can really start to make a difference, because instead of relying on cash stakes, you've got all these different monetization methods. There's different ways to monetize, okay? And this is where my motivation came in, because they were using all the predatory tactics, and I'm saying you can monetize a different way. That's my motivation, is to prove that there's not just one way to do it. You know, you can have table games that don't rely on gambling, okay? So these monetization methods are really important, especially for any business. This tells you what kind of business you're going to run. So who can name a monetization method? How do you monetize stuff? Yeah.
Advertisements.
What's that?
Advertisements.
Advertisements? Oh, like paid ads?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So so like free to play. This is a really popular one. Free to play with ads. Okay. So it's free, but you got to watch an ad every 3 minutes unless you play. Okay. Now, free to play plus ads. Would you say that's in your opinion, would you say free to play with ads is a fair or a predatory monetization, if you had to pick one?
I think fair, as long as it's
Fair.
not excessive.
Yeah. Well, it relies on play, yeah, see, the excessiveness, and you're kind of, you're jumping ahead, you kind of see where I'm going with this, but, okay, so free to play with that, so who can come up with another one? Yeah,
Subscription?
subscription, yep. The Battle Pass, all right? Games, that's what they call them now. Now, subscriptions, basically, country clubs, a whole bunch of private clubs, gym memberships, right? There's plenty of examples of subscriptions. It's a flat fee, and you get access for a certain amount of time. Would you say subscriptions fall under the fair or predatory category? In your opinion?
Fair.
It depends, right? It always depends. Anybody else? Just shout them out. I'm up here. We'll start off with one. This is simple. Okay, flat price. This is what I'm used to because I'm old school. You pay for the cartridge and now you own Super Mario, right? Physical object, flat price. I'd say to me that falls under fair. Okay. What about microtransactions? Where would you guys put that one? That's a really popular one nowadays. Who likes microtransactions? Not too many people,
Not
right?
me.
Yeah.
I would think it's unfair if there's like a flat price, like Madden. I know they have a big problem with that.
You mean if they charge too much?
So
Is that
like
what
they
you're
had a
saying?
flat price and then they have microtransactions.
Well, okay, see, that's the whole thing with microtransactions, okay? Because that's what they do, especially with games. He used Madden as an example. What they do is that on release, they say, okay, it's $75 for the game. And then on the release date, oh, DLC, you got DLC, right? So they release a game that's half completed for a full price. And then if you want the full game, you gotta pay extra on top, okay?
Or like Netflix, where you already pay for it, but now you have to pay for certain movies. I always hate that.
Oh, yeah, well,
Either should have it or you shouldn't.
Amazon is brutal with that, actually, because you got Amazon Prime, and then they have all those movies that you can watch, and it's just like buy or rent for $3.99. Okay, microtransactions. Generally, I would put that under predatory, but it depends, right? It always depends. All right. Now, who's heard of dynamic pricing? This is a new development. Who's heard of dynamic pricing? Anybody? Okay. All right. So this is another AI thing. Okay. So what they're doing now, this is especially prevalent with right now with concert tickets and airplane flights. Okay. So what they do is that they analyze your spending behavior, your income, all these different parameters, age, sex, race, all kinds of stuff, and they put you in a category. And then they change the price of the same item depending on what they think you'll pay for it. Okay? So, someone to the same concert, someone might get charged $20 for a ticket, and another person might get charged $150 for a ticket. Okay? Depending on whether the company thinks they can get you for more or less. Okay? Now, with games, this is a thing the PlayStation Store announced. They're doing dynamic pricing. So on their online store, you go in, you look up a certain game, it's $30 for somebody and $50 for somebody else. Dynamic pricing. Okay? Where would you guys put dynamic pricing? Predatory. I would tend to agree. This is a pretty good list. I tend to agree with this, right? Okay? But there are situations where even dynamic pricing is okay. All right? Well, one example that I can give, what about senior discounts? Okay, right? You can give senior discounts. What about veterans discounts? Okay? If someone went over and risked their life for my country, I'll give them $5 off of a starter pack. I got no problem with that, right? So even with the most cutthroat predatory, there are examples of where it can be acceptable, right? Okay? Microtransactions, same thing. I mean, honestly, you could argue anything is a microtransaction. I mean, the flat price and the microtransactions, these are very closely related, because like you can have a whole bunch of products for people to buy. Okay, you could argue that those are microtransactions, right? Like for my gaming supplies, the card packs, right? Someone who has more cards has more options to win, right? So you could do the microtransactions, okay? So it's about how you do it, because there's a trade-off, okay? A lot of these big companies like that you get frustrated with, like for me, it's the movie studios, okay? All the sequels, I can't stand it, okay? Now it's creeping into games, all these predatory tactics. I'm noticing all of these things that I learned in Las Vegas, now they're creeping into my entertainment. I can't even escape, right? I can't even turn my brain off and escape because I'm getting all these prices shoved on me, right? So the main difference is none of these are really good or evil, really. It's how you do it. A lot of these modern monetization methods, and this is Vegas to a T, okay, is how much value can I extract, okay? These companies, when you're talking Vegas, they used to say price per head, okay? Because they've got all this foot traffic, so they try to hit every single that person that walks in the door. We try to make $200 from them, or whatever the number is, okay? Price per head. And a lot of these modern companies, they think, how much value can I extract? And that's why you start to see all these predatory monetization methods. Because like microtransactions, if you spend a little bit at a time, you don't notice how much you're spending. Things add up, right? Okay. The subscriptions, you do for a subscription, you forget you're subscribed, okay? You're not using it, they're still getting you, okay? So a lot of modern monetization methods that people are frustrated with nowadays have this philosophy. How much can I extract, okay? And this is where you guys have the advantage, okay? Because you guys are business students, you're entrepreneurs, you got your own ideas, okay? This is how you change things. Whereas the modern monetization methods, like the corporate method, is how much value can I extract? Instead, entrepreneurs ask, how much value can I create? Okay? Very different approach. Okay? In Vegas, it's all about the monetization. Okay? They're not worried about creating value, they're worried about taking your money, right? Okay? Entrepreneurs, we have all three to pull from. Okay? We may not have as much money or resources, okay? But what we do have is creative control, okay? We can choose how we monetize. Okay? As entrepreneurs, you don't have to answer to a boss or board of directors. Okay? You're in the driver's seat, okay? And so when you're looking to change things, because I don't know about you guys, but there's a few things going on in the world that I'm kind of frustrated with. I'm sure we could, I don't want to go in doom and gloom mode, but I'm sure we can all think of things we'd like to improve on that are going on right now, right? Well, this is where as business owners you can make a real difference, because you have the opportunity to change things, right? Okay, innovation, right? This is very important. Okay, you get to choose the how, all right? If you work for another company, you don't get to choose the how. If you work for yourself, you get to choose how. You're your own boss, okay? You have more control than these larger companies do. As a startup, that's really important, okay? You have to find a way to stand out. And you can stand out not only with your product, but in the way you run your business, okay? when you're frustrated with all these predatory business practices, all these microtransactions and dynamic pricing and all this, okay? How do you change it, okay? You make something better. That's how I'm hoping to start changing the perceptions of the gaming industry, right? Because my games are different, they're monetized different. Through that, it's going to change the way people think. These three things, the gameplay, really just the customer value, what do they get out of it, okay? The flavor, your emotional hook, your style, very important, okay? And the monetization, what kind of company do you run? What kind of person are you? Because you're in charge, right? The way your company monetizes and helps people, you know, maybe you want to start a nonprofit, maybe you have a charity fund, maybe you donate a percentage of your sales to a cause you care about, okay? What does that say about the kind of company that you have, okay? As an entrepreneur, this is your chance. This is your chance to say not only who you are, but like make an impactful change. What's your motivation behind the business? That's where this really comes in. If I could give you two pieces of advice, okay? Vote with your wallet. Now you're familiar with the different tactics that companies use to monetize, okay? And as we talked about before, there's all these different tactics. It's good or bad. No monetization tactic is inherently evil or good or whatever, okay? But that's up to you to how far you want to push it, right? So vote with your wallet. If you see a company or you see something you don't like, just don't engage with it, okay? If enough people don't engage, then it'll go away because they're about the money, right? That's how they understand. So vote with your wallet. And second is if you want something to change, then make something better. So my games, I take Hold'em, make it better. Take blackjack, make it better, right? Any business, not just with games. When you're starting your business, think about your motivation, okay? Because as a young person exiting college, I know I was always out to change the world and stuff. And this is how you do it, okay? Before you even start launching your business, thinking about your approach and your heart behind it. Keep your main three pillars intact, and that's how you can make a difference as a business owner. And that pretty much wraps it up.